Hi, I'm Rick Maurer. If we've never met before, I just want to say hi and thanks for watching this video. This video is linked to a newsletter that I sent out this week, as well as a LinkedIn post. And in that, I had talked about a survey, which I thought was quite brilliant, that just failed miserably. There was too much details there, and people would just use it to hide behind and say, well, I don't think we're a 3.3. I think we're probably a 3.47. I mean, it was just stuff like that and got nowhere. Well, a while later, got called from another client, and this general manager said, we have a big challenge coming up. Our major client, it was a client that was like something like 60, 70% of their business, is not going to use us anymore after 3 or 4 years. They said they really like our work, but they're moving to a completely different technological platform and something that we don't do. And I confirmed that, yeah, that's not what we do. And so the general manager said, I want to hold a planning meeting now. I don't want to wait 3 years to do that. I want to get on top of this because this could be a real opportunity. It could also be a tremendous threat. And so, will you help us? And I said, sure. And I said, so I need to know a little bit about the group and what their thoughts are and all this. And so the senior team is saying, oh, we think that they're going to love having this meeting. And they used the phrase, we think a lot. And I said, that's great, but we need to be better than we think. We really need to know this is where they are. This is what they need. And this leadership group says, so what do you suggest? And I said, well, how about I do a survey? And you could see they just rolled their eyes and go, oh, no, not another survey. And I said, okay, how about this? 3 questions. It'll take less than 5 minutes. They said, okay. So what I did is I wrote an email, everything with their permission, by the way. I wrote an email to everyone and said, hey, I'm going to be facilitating this meeting. In order for us to get the most out of it, I just have a few questions I'd like to ask you, and your responses are absolutely anonymous. And so I use something called SurveyMonkey, which I've been using for 15 years, but there are a lot of other places where you can go to find something where it's easy for you to set it up and easy for people to use it. That's a key thing, that it's easy for people to use it. And so I have these 3 questions. And the first one was, what are your thoughts about the need to change? And then I have a space for about 5 questions or so. You don't want to leave more space than that, or else people will write the new version of War and Peace. It just keep it small. And I said, what are your thoughts about that? So I'm not trying to say, are you thinking this or are you thinking that? The second question is, what are your reactions to the thought that you might have to change? Now, I never said, what are your thoughts about support or resistance or fear or any of that? Okay? What are your reactions? And the third one is, to what extent do the leaders have what it takes to lead a change like this? And that was it. And then I did have a 4th question, completely optional. And I said, hey, anything else you'd like to add? Period. And those 3 questions were based on my 3 levels of support and resistance, but that's not really important. That's important for the work that I was doing. You probably have other questions you want to ask. But at no place in there did I say, oh, I've developed this model and I've written about it extensively. Now, I wanted it to be in their language so I could say, so what are your thoughts about this? Hey, so if we're having a cup of coffee together, it'd be that kind of question. And we got the response back. And it was phenomenal. First of all, it was like a 70%, 80% response rate. People said, yeah, I'm, basically saying, I'm glad we're tackling this. Yes, I'm scared, but I'm glad we're tackling it. And yeah, we do trust our leaders here. And they also said, but corporate headquarters doesn't always come through on their support. And the general manager said, that's true. But if I ask them to come and personally kick off the meeting, they will then support it. So that gave us the information we needed. And another benefit of that I hadn't realized is we were able to cut out a lot of the preliminary slideshow stuff because people were there. They wanted to roll up their sleeves and work. So that's it. So I hope that's helpful.